Thank you for joining us. My name is Jen. I work in Alumni Relations at UNH, and we are going to see some of the polling results later. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Caitlin. Thanks, Caitlin.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Paul College's real estate trends with the lovely COVID-19 marketplace. Tonight, we have an awesome panel of experts in the field, ranging from asset managers to realtors to investors, developers, you name it. So hopefully we'll be able to get all of your questions answered tonight. So our format tonight, we're going to just do a quick little intro of our panel so that you see who we are going to be talking with tonight and kind of what their background is. Then we're going to go into some general topic discussions of the current market environment and kind of what we see happening and kind of tips and tricks and things to be aware of and think about when you're going into the real estate world. And then we're going to open it up for Q&A at the end. So just a little quick note about myself. I teach the real estate program here at Peter T. Paul College of Business and Economics. We started the program about 6 or 7 years ago. It is a real estate finance backed program. A lot of the people on the call tonight have either been past students or guests in the class. We have a very hands-on approach to our real estate program, where instead of reading textbooks, we actually get out in the real world and do it. We invest, we work with industry professionals. So if those of you are on the call are interested in some help maybe in a project, I have a whole bunch of students willing to help you. Or if you're interested in hiring, again, we have a whole bunch of students. So first tonight, we have Todd Baker, who has been a great guest in class throughout the years. He is a 1991 graduate of the Peter T. Paul College, and he is the founder and president of Baker Properties. Todd?
Hi, everyone. I'm Todd Baker, and thank you, Professor DeSoy, for inviting me to this panel. My company is based in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, and we buy properties generally that are neglected and try to fix them up a bit, and mostly commercial properties. So we own about 5 shopping centers, 5 office buildings. We have a couple of residential developments, and we have 2 industrial buildings and 1 airport. I'd be happy to talk to you about what's happening in the commercial space. Really what we're seeing is that out of all of our customer base, about 20% of them had rent modifications for the first 3 months. And following that, about 5% have continued with some rent modifications going forward. And so there are a lot of people that are having a difficult time, but most of the businesses that we deal with are doing okay. And so here in New Hampshire, we've seen a lot of folks moving into town from the cities. So Boston, I think, is probably some of our departing folks, and a lot of folks are moving here. So other than the office market and some retail, it's been relatively stable. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And speaking of the Boston market, we have Anna Cristofori here, who is a beloved past student, an excellent student, class of 2017 from the Peter Paul class. And she is currently working as an assistant asset manager at a private equity firm in Boston, Intercontinental Real Estate. Anna?
Yes. Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Cristofori. I'm an assistant asset manager, as Caitlin just said, at Intercontinental Real Estate Corporation in Boston. It's really an honor and a pleasure to be here speaking with all of you tonight, and along with Todd, Eric, and Adam. This is just a dream come true. So a little bit about what I do. I assist in both the asset management and property management in both the residential apartment buildings in the Cambridge, Boston area, as well as select office, retail, mixed-use buildings as well in the Cambridge, Boston area. From a residential standpoint, along with the day-to-day property management factors that are included in managing an apartment building, I'm also heavily involved with the leasing process and the renewal process, especially coming up with the summer season. That, as you can imagine, has been impacted drastically because of the COVID market. And from a commercial standpoint, along with the property management piece as well, I'm heavily involved with the budget preparation process, leasing negotiations, and also just maintaining the day-to-day tenant correspondence and financial reporting that's involved. We've definitely found that teamwork and working together with our tenants through this COVID market has proven to be incredibly, as helpful as it possibly can be. So it's definitely taken a shift due to COVID. And as a sidebar, I also hold my real estate license in Massachusetts.
Thank you, Anna. And next we have Eric Schinberg. Many of you may be familiar with him from Schinberg Properties. He's the founder and CEO of Schinberg Properties, and he is also a graduate of UNH. Only if he is not a graduate of Paul College, he's a graduate of he's a graduate from the School of Engineering and Physical Sciences. Eric?
Thank you, Caitlin, and thank you everyone for coming to join us tonight. Schinberg Properties is a fully integrated firm where we do single-family home construction and development. We have become quite experienced at this point, having converted 17 mills now throughout Massachusetts, Maine, and New Hampshire into apartments and commercial spaces. So we own and manage somewhere around, I think, 12 or 1,300 apartments in these mills, and have 1 million or 1.5 million square feet of commercial space. We do the acquisitions through private equity, debt, and historic tax credits. We get the entitlements. We have a construction company. We do the work, and then we hold these assets, and we have our own property management company to manage them as well. So a majority of our assets are residential apartments, and a minority is commercial, and it's typically in these mills. We have been navigating COVID as these other folks have. The residential market has been impacted almost not at all. And as Todd mentioned, we've had to work with some of our commercial tenants, but by and large, because New Hampshire is such a desirable place to be, we have found that the overall impact is not that negative even on our commercial assets. So we're here to answer any of your questions later and continue the conversation. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Adam Dow. Adam Dow is also a graduate of the Paul College here at UNH, and he is the founder and owner of the Dow Realty Group. So for those of you looking to buy a property, he's a great person to contact. So Adam?
Yes, I'm just an old-fashioned realtor. I am in the Lakes region. I do have a large team. I do work for Keller Williams. Have the largest team in the state. We sold 279 units last year, 175 million. Certainly COVID has made it a little difficult in finding homes for folks that are coming up from Boston and Massachusetts and things like that, but have to get creative with our offers, and certainly a challenging time to find a property.
All right, so with that, Jen, if you could make the poll results available. So just looking at who is currently on the call tonight and kind of where your interests are, there's a lot of people that are interested in investing in residential real estate, commercial kind of coming in second. And with that investment of your residential real estate, a lot of you are looking to buy your first time home or a vacation property in a current, or to change your house you're in right now to move. So because that seems to be such an important and key item with our audience, I think I would like to start there. So Adam, if you would like to kick it off with talking about kind of what you're seeing with the trends in people buying just single family homes, whether it's they're making a move, they're buying their first time home, or they are looking for that second vacation home. What are kind of the things that you're seeing in this area?
Well, I mean, as we all know, New Hampshire's a great place to be. It's been a second home market for some. Last year or 2019, if you asked somebody if they could work from home, it was like, oh, it's a bonus, I get to work from home. But 2020 forced tons of people to work from home, and more importantly, it forced companies to make them productive. So up here, we've had a lot of people that came up early. A lot of the lights were on around the lake that usually aren't on until June. They were on in March and April. And I make the analogy of anyone who was down in Massachusetts and their neighbor's driveway is empty for 2 months. People said, you know what, I don't want that to happen again. So we have 3 new sets of buyers that are up here. 1 is the people that can work from home, 2, the people that used to travel for vacations, and 3, the people that retired to the cities that may want a little bit more diverse or population, less density, on top of everyone who was already looking in New Hampshire already. So as I said at the beginning, it's a challenging time to get a home in New Hampshire. Usually in Wolfboro, there's about 100 listings. Like, that's the town I grew up in, the town I sell real estate in. And in the downtimes is 200 or so. I just checked today, there were 7. So it's a hard time to find a house right now.
What are you seeing, Anna, down in the Boston area?
Ultimately, in terms of home buying, a lot of people are jazzed up about the fact that the interest rates are so low. And they want to, everyone's encouraging everyone to buy. And when I look at it, I mean, I live in an apartment, I don't own a home. It's what I see as a pattern is that, yes, interest rates are incredibly low, but the supply is so minimal. As Adam said, it's so hard to find homes for their buyers because everything is getting bought so fast. And I think you referenced the other day that even open houses are needing police type direction in order to let certain people in and keep everything, civil. It's never been like this before, which in my eyes kind of, I like to use the analogy that people have more time to pick out their milk at the grocery store than they do to decide on whether or not they want to pick out a house. It's like, oh, well, I kind of like it. Here's an offer. So that's kind of resulted in just to even be able to get into the pool to be considered to be approved for that home. So I think that's resulted in a lot of people overpaying for homes and also kind of making impulse decisions on what homes they are considering buying. I think that when you step back and look at those 2 factors versus the low interest, it's kind of difficult to think, well, is it worth the trade-off? And that's just kind of what I'm seeing from an individual that's trying to maybe buy her first home in the next few years versus already has a home that they're trying to sell, things like that.
And to that point, Adam, what are you doing with respect to the fact that, you are a realtor and the inventory is really low? How are you, finding the next home to either find a home for Anna if she's looking for a home, or the next home that you're looking to put on the market? How are you kind of going about that?
Well, I think education, I mean, any type of market, you want to educate your clients on what exactly to expect. So when somebody's coming up to look for a house, they're, like Anna said, they can go buy a thing of milk, but they have to hurry up and buy a house if they really want it. So it's just educating the people as much as they can before they even get up here to look at houses, to say, all right, if this is the right property, let's have your pre-approval ready, proof of funds ready, all the things to everything's moving so fast. And I think a lot of people just are wondering, is this the high water mark? Is this a demographic shift because COVID's changed the way people can work from home and things like that? So there's a lot of unknown information going on too. So it's just open communication on making sure people can afford what they're buying in case there's a market shift, and make sure that they're not putting themselves in financial risk in these decisions, and just educating them on what could be the possibilities of the market shifting, or making sure they're making the right decisions for them.
And in your opinion, Adam, where do you think we are at from that standpoint? Do you think that like we're kind of
My
at the
crystal
point-
ball.
Yes, your crystal ball. If we could look into it, what are you seeing kind of down the road? Do we think we're kind of on a trajectory that isn't going to stop anytime soon? Or do
Well,
you think
I'm really happy to sell in New Hampshire. I mean, I've got agents in the seacoast and in the ski country. When COVID first hit, people were saying, you know what, I'm not looking for a ski house anymore. I'm upping my budget and I'm going to sell my house in Massachusetts and I'm coming up here. And when you have 30 people that are making an offer on a house and the seller saying, hey, here's a cash offer over asking price, all of these things that make the offer perfect. Then you have 29 other people that still want to be in New Hampshire because of an economic thing. Like when we had the crash 15 years ago, people were getting mortgages that they shouldn't get. They were doing 106% financing. Like there's a lot of things that caused that real estate downturn. Now we've got the low interest rates and banks are still making money. Like the fear before was if the interest rates got too low, then the banking institution would be in trouble, but that's not happening now. So there's a lot of things that are good about New Hampshire specifically and the real estate market, but we're 10 years into a 7-year cycle. So like things that go up have to come down. So I can answer that both ways, whichever one you want.
Are you finding any good deals in the mix though? Are you still finding like that cabin in the woods that everybody happened to skip over? Are you still?
Yeah, I get about 40 buyers for that. No, I think there's an interesting thing that I've been telling buyers is if you get see a listing, like say it's in a condo development, there hasn't been a sale in a long time, and the realtor kind of is lazy and prices it based on what the last one sold for, and maybe the last one was in 2019. Maybe that's a deal to be had because they're just not taking into account what's going on in this particular market. So we have had, and then what usually happens is once that condo or waterfront on, like we sold one on Ossipee Lake and it came on the market, person bought it, and then one came on that was worth for $100,000 more than that one for over asking price. So if you find something in a pocket where there hasn't been a good comp recently, maybe there's a deal there, but predominantly people are saying the market's hot, I'm going to maximize my price.
Excellent. So shifting over to now kind of that view in the commercial side, what are you seeing, Todd, up here specifically? Are you seeing on the commercial side, are we seeing people that are looking to buy these retail places, office space, kind of what's happening in that marketplace?
It's definitely not as active as in the residential side. And so there's been a lot of uncertainty. So, the businesses weren't sure if they were going to be able to survive. I think early on, the attractiveness of buying, let's say, an 8 cap or a 9 cap with interest rates in the 2s is pretty attractive. So I think anything that was stable and had stabilized income or had, promised a good tenant that was on the market got snapped up pretty quickly. But in terms of the investment side, empty buildings aren't selling. Nobody's really, buying empty buildings. Their empty spaces really haven't been filling up very quickly. I mean, I think I've signed a couple of leases, mostly, small office space. There's demand for, and there's a lot of demand for industrial space. Surprisingly, Hampton Airfield is booming. So we have like a 50-person wait list for hangars at the airfield, which is really just an unexpected response to COVID. I guess, lots of folks wanted to learn to fly and people wanted to take their plane to Hampton too. But as a general statement, the activity has really slowed. Like I haven't bought any investment properties in the last year. And the only thing that we're working on are residential developments. So we're building some apartments and we've got some home developments. And, one of the reasons that we have such a imbalance of supply and demand is because it's so difficult. And, I'm sure Eric can speak to this, to take a piece of land and convert it into a home. And there's plenty of barriers to entry and we've got lots of folks in the neighborhood and abutters that make things difficult along the way. So the supply side is really constrained, and now we have a tremendous increase in demand on the residential side. So, in my company's business, we are pursuing trying to get homes for people to be ready to go, but you can't, snap your fingers and just make that happen. So, it's been a mixed bag.
So Eric, about that side and the development and the fact that the cost of things, let's say a 2x4, for example, is twice the cost it was last year. What are you looking at in the people that are looking at maybe just not even a huge development, just renovations or kind of changes to homes, things like that? What are you seeing as a trend there?
Well, we're finding that the residential developments that we have that are already entitled and fully permitted, the demand exceeds our ability to supply the product, but we're having difficulty now keeping up with price increases because there has been supply chain interruption as a result of COVID. As you mentioned, lumber has gone up 40 or 50% in the last few months. We can't get our suppliers to fix that for more than a month or two. So we've always kind of prided ourselves in saying, yep, we can price this subdivision for the next 20 houses and have sort of stable pricing metric. Now we're pricing a month in advance and putting big disclaimers saying we can't commit if we don't start the house by a certain time. Todd made reference to this really extreme imbalance. The regulatory climate gets more and more difficult all the time. Getting entitlements and getting your building permits, getting your the multiple layers of regulatory agencies you need to go through to develop a piece of land, that it just gets worse. And the cost of doing that is at a curve like this, and incomes are at a curve like this. But now with interest rates low, this crazy demand, I'm a little worried about, a bubble where people are borrowing more than they really can if they have any sort of variable rate to the mortgage. I don't think we're at risk for anything like 2008, but it's a frenetic pace in the single family home stuff. Just a little sidebar related to the commercial. We have a lot of small commercial properties in Old Mills, and we're finding that things that are between 500 square feet and 2,000 square feet still have some demand. People are either downsizing from larger commercial properties or a small business that's finally taken off. A lot of our smaller tenants have gotten their PPP loans and kept things going and actually have some additional cash as a result, and they're adding on. So it's a mixed bag. It's much more difficult in the larger retail space that Todd's in than some of our smaller ones that are a byproduct of putting apartments in a mill.
And Todd, what are you seeing kind of on the bigger side? Are you seeing that they're struggling to pay rents, or are you seeing that you're able to work it out?
Anyone who relies on crowds, is struggling because of the pandemic. People aren't going there. Their customers aren't showing up, and they're not allowed to have their customers there. So, if you think about, a bowling alley or a fitness center, any of these restaurants that are struggling, all those folks are struggling, and no one's starting a new one, for sure. So fortunately, we don't have a lot of vacancy, and we had a very low vacancy when the pandemic started. But I think if you drive around, the neighborhoods or the commercial spaces, you'll see the same spaces that were vacant a year ago are still vacant. And, there have been some businesses that have gone out of business as well. So, hopefully, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And as the vaccine, takes hold, and it looks like it is, some of these businesses will come back to life, and we're hopeful about that. But it's been difficult for folks. Like I said, we had immediately lots of people who were impacted back in March and April of 2020, and then a number of them were able to get public assistance of some sort. So PPP loans, or New Hampshire did a Main Street loan, and that was really helpful to lots of these businesses. And we were pretty proactive. I think Anna said as well that they were proactive about trying to work closely with their tenants. Obviously, we want these people's businesses to survive. We consider them to be our business partners. So we're sharing the pain with them, and hopefully we'll share the happiness, sometime in the foreseeable future.
And I can also attest exactly what Eric and Todd were just describing. We've been seeing in my commercial portfolio as well. You spoke of a bowling alley and a bar and a fitness studio. I have all the above, and it's those retail tenants that really have needed the help and the teamwork, and just kind of you can't approach those conversations with, all right, well, I want my money, and how are you going to do it? It's kind of like, no, you're my tenant for 10 to 15 years. How can we make this work? We want you to thrive. You didn't ask for this. But on the flip side, so that's always a tough, difficult conversation to have, but it's primarily been residential that those lease negotiation deferment agreements have been proposed with. And then on the office side, as Eric said, you definitely are seeing more of kind of a demand towards the smaller boutique floor plates, just because in the long term, these companies that had significant layoffs or realized, hey, I don't need 200,000 square feet to keep my business running. Everyone's running perfectly from home. So how about 30,000 or 15,000 even? So you're definitely seeing more of a demand in those smaller areas. And yeah, so that's kind of what we've been seeing, and it's definitely been kind of an interesting flow in terms of the demand of the market. I agree with Todd, and also saying that a lot of my commercial office buildings have been relatively fully occupied throughout the duration of this, and it's definitely a better position because you're not seeing tenants leave, but you're also not seeing tenants move in. So it really sucks to have an empty building, but it's worked out pretty well to have a fully or mostly fully occupied building for office.
Either Anna, Eric, or Todd specifically, do you guys see opportunities right now in the commercial space? So do you think there's kind of a void that needs to be filled? Or if I'm looking to invest in commercial space, kind of things that might be on the cusp that are growing that maybe I should start considering to look into if I want to start dabbling into the commercial space?
In my case, there are the opportunities that are out there I think are too risky to take on. So a lot of, our investments are guided by putting together the right capital structure. So we put together non-recourse debt so that, we can get good loans, but they're, none of us are going to go bankrupt if none of the investors or myself are going to go bankrupt if things don't work out as well, and they have to be stable. And those loans aren't as easily available today. Banks don't want to make non-recourse loans on empty buildings, I can tell you that. So if you want to buy an empty building, you'll be taking a risk. And it's not a risk that I'm comfortable taking today, because you just really don't know what the rebound is going to be like. So, for example, I know there are several retail centers, outlet centers that are struggling, and you can buy them, and you can probably buy them at well below their replacement cost, but you will be signing personally on those notes, or you'll be putting up your own cash. And if you have a long enough time horizon, I think it'll come back, but it could be some years. And so I haven't been taking those risks. And, I wouldn't advise somebody who's just getting into to do it with anything that they can't afford to lose, or they can't be patient for a couple of years.
As a
Eric, you like, oh, go.
Well, I'm just going to say, as a residential guy, and even with Eric, wondering, he's done all these mills and made beautiful properties out of mills that used to be commercial properties at one point. Are there any buildings out there that would be suited to be, brought into the residential inventory around the state or that you know of?
I think it's a great question. I think that some of these larger big box retail locations or shopping malls might be kind of the mills of the future. The beauty is the infrastructure is there. There's so much impervious paving and all this stuff that if it were converted into some form of housing, you would need a lot fewer parking spaces. And you already have, like I said, you've already disrupted the green space. Abutters are less concerned or actually quite supportive when you take a derelict commercial empty building and repurpose it. So we've even started looking at, at some of these big box stores just to think, wow, how could you, they're not as sexy as a big mill on a river, but they're usually well located. And I think it's an interesting thought for the future, because we keep thinking we're running out of mills, but they keep finding us, but there's a finite supply of them.
Anna, do you see anything with respect to the tenants that you're seeing? So on the commercial side, you guys have been working out some deals, but are you having any issues with your residential tenants? And I guess, Eric, you could answer that as well. Are you having issues with them not being able to pay rent? So if you did go into one of these empty big box stores and you did take the risk and you converted it to a more residential, which tends to be what people are looking for, are you having issues with collecting rent on that end?
Well, as soon as COVID hit and all the shutdowns began, we were very proactive with all of our tenants, getting resources on our website and getting information to them about how to access the supplemental funds through the state. All of our commercial tenants, like Todd was saying, we were getting them information on PPP loans and SBA and all this stuff. But the answer is we had very, very little difference in our residential collections. As a matter of fact, it's not even noticeable. We worked with 2 or 3 people that lost their jobs, couldn't get their unemployment in time, and we made a couple of deals with residential tenants. But as Todd mentioned, we had to be much more creative with commercial ones, but we found that our folks are much smaller. They're generally, a large tenant for us is 10,000 square feet. Our average commercial tenant might be 2,500 square feet. So they could get a $15,000 PPP loan and keep things going for a while. So for us, it was quite remarkable, the minimal impact on the residential collections, and our banks were quite concerned about it. And we had very good data to support the fact that we were still closing new loans during the pandemic for predominantly residential projects. So
I can also attest to that. Since last March, I've been doing weekly rent reporting for all of the residential properties, and they've received 98% rents across the board, which is actually pretty normal. I mean, whether someone pays past the 20th of the month or someone's a little late, consistently 98%. So as Eric said, we really have not seen much of a difference on the residential end, which is kind of crazy, because at the beginning, we were bracing ourselves for some sort of mass, like, I lost my job, I can't afford rent, because I mean, Boston, Brookline, Cambridge apartments aren't cheap. So it is a lot of money to afford. And but yeah, so we only, of all, I think it's 286 tenants, only 1 needed a repayment plan. And I don't know if you saw this, Eric, but we actually did see as well. I mean, I know in Seattle, there's a law enforced right now where residential apartments can't evict. It's just not. So people just realize, oh, well, I don't have to pay rent because they can't evict me. Nanamumu, like that's what they kind of figured out. But what we saw, fortunately, Massachusetts didn't have the same type of guidelines, but a lot of people would email us or call us saying, hey, I'm going through a really hard time. Help me reduce my rent, please. Like, what can you do for me? And of course, doing our due diligence, we'd say, hey, yeah, okay, of course, send us your unemployment letter. We're happy to work with you, formulate a repayment plan, whatever. We're so sorry that you've been impacted. And then it would either be silence or, oh, well, I haven't lost my job. I don't have any cut in income. So more people were trying to take advantage of the fact that so many people were laid off and losing their job than actually needed it, which was mind-boggling for me. I don't know if you saw the same things, but on the residential, and that's what we saw.
That's a tough
Okay, so to get back into, so now we're pretty much a little bit more than halfway through. So I want to make sure we get some questions answered. So back to you, Adam. We have a lot of people on the call here looking for a vacation home. So they're looking for a second home, especially up in your area in the Lakes region. What are you seeing? What are the trends? Do they tend to be like seasonal? Are people buying vacation homes and Airbnb rentals? What do we have going on up in the Lakes region with respect to vacation homes?
Well, vacation homes, second homes, and people working from home, it's all kind of blending right now. So, I mean, we've talked about the inventory, being educated, being prepared for what's going to be, what you're going to be facing with multiple offers up here. If you're working with a realtor, I encourage good communication. I'm getting calls every day, all day of people that want to come here and find a house. So get yourself on automatic alerts. So once something hits the market, you're on the phone with your realtor right away and saying, hey, what about this one? What's the neighborhood like? Being ready to hop in the car and come out. There's a lot of delayed showings now. What we do is we'll list a property on Thursday, but won't show it till Saturday. There's still COVID, there's still a pandemic going on. So I heard one realtor across the lake had 126 people show up for an open house, and the seller said, we're done. We've got what we want. If you want to pay this and pay cash, we'll take it. And that's what they got. So it's a little bit crazy. So you don't want to extend yourself in this market. Like what I was saying before, you want to know what you want. You want to be in good communication with your realtor, be prepared with financials, be educated on what is sold, and just come to the table with a lot of stuff. But by no means stretch yourself to get something, because the market could shift. But I also think that we're in a demographic shift. I was on a mastermind with Gary Keller a couple hours ago, and there's 300 of the top realtors in the country for the company. And the common thing is a third of the people are going to go back to the work, a third of the people are going to be hybrid, and a third of the people are going to, go back to the office. So there's 2/3 of the people that now can be New Hampshire residents. So I do think that we're going to be with a good market for a little bit now. And the people that are getting the homes are getting them in cash. So not in, unless there's a big refi going on that I don't know about, I still think we're going to be in somewhat of a good economy for a while.
Do you think those comps, so right now, because people are just trying to get a property and maybe they've made, I know some people that have made 20 offers and they've been the losing 20 offers. So now that they're just offering money over asking, do you think that that's going to now cause a little bit of a longer term, or even if there is a downturn, a lot slower downturn? Because now when you're looking at comps, they're significantly higher than what would be expected as the current market?
Well, from March, like we've been saying on the thing, from a commercial standpoint, from my own personal standpoint, we didn't know what was going to happen. Like no one could have predicted what was going to hit us. So we've been we have a lot of integrity on the team, and we want to give our buyers good advice. And what I've been telling our team is, there's no expert in this market. No, this has never really happened before. A pandemic forcing people to work from home, which is forcing, all of the things that we've been talking about. So the comps are there, and people are, stretching. They say, I don't care. I'll overpay for this. I just want out, or I'll overpay for this because I want a place to go. But Eric was, and Anna were talking about, or you were talking about the price of lumber. So it's still it's not like you can buy a house for $500,000 and it costs $200,000 to build. Like the example I use, if you bought a house in Somerville next to the T, it cost you $500,000 to build the house, but it cost you $1 million to purchase it. So there was $500,000 in equity just because of the location, because you could commute to work because of the T. Now, when you come into New Hampshire, it's still right around what you can build a house is what you can buy a house for. So it's still not that unhealthy yet.
Have you seen kind of a winning number? Is it tend to be, 10,000 over asking? Like, is there some type of kind of magic trend that you see kind of happening with those numbers?
I mean, I've seen 250 over. It depends on the price point, obviously. I tell buyers, make the offer that if you hear it sold for X, if they said it sold for $1 million and you were okay with it, because you could say, all right, that person can have it, just like go up to wherever you would feel disappointment if you heard somebody else got it for that. But there are people that are just getting kind of insane. But this was happening 6 months ago, and we were feeling the same thing. Like, so we were hesitant about telling people to buy something 6 months ago because we didn't know if that was the time. And now we're 6 months later, and I think we haven't had enough inventory to actually show us how strong the market is. Like when you have 7 properties for sale in a whole town, it's hard. Like Naples, it's easy. You have a subdivision of 600 homes. You sell 10, you raise the price. You sell another 10, you raise the price again, and because they're all the same house. Here, it was hard enough to price properties using comps because we have New Englanders, we have condos, we have waterfront. Like there's not the similar comps, so it's hard enough. So it's a very hard thing for us when we're working with buyers to say, yes, that's overpriced, or yes, that's competitively priced, or go up to this. There's no magic pill to navigate.
Overpriced any properties yet? Have you put houses on the market that you felt were too highly priced, or are they just getting all bought up?
Yeah, I mean, because the joke, I shouldn't say it, this is recorded, right?
It is.
But it's like, all right, price it and then put it 25% over what you think it's going to be, because that's where the buyers are coming in at. Like it is, there's not a lot of, and it's cash too. So it's a hard thing because people can't rely on the appraisal to renegotiate because there's no appraisal to renegotiate on. So it is moving very fast. And I think it's partly because we don't have the comps like a Naples to say, all right, we just sold 10 homes in a row in the last month, so let's raise the prices. It's more, there's just, people are stacking up for the same house.
Eric, are you seeing the same thing for your developments?
Yeah, we are doing the same thing, mostly as it relates to our costs going up. Again, with the lumber and a bunch of trades, it's very difficult to get framing contractors right now. So it is harder to just willy-nilly go up by 25%. So we have to say, okay, the house was 650, it's now 675, and this is why, and try to explain to the buyer. In new home construction, you can't kind of be more usurious like that and just say pay 25% more. And it's the same for us in the apartment market on rents. If we have a loyal tenant that's in one of our apartments and they want to renew their lease, we'll increase it 1 or 2% just to cover our increase in utility and property tax costs. If they vacate, we will raise it a little more just to see what the market is. But our goal is primarily to keep our loyal tenants. So and we've done a lot of flat renewals during COVID for some people that are more on the fringe of their ability to pay. So I know that there's a lot of places where they're doing bigger increases on renewals, but I think that bites you in the long run.
So speaking of kind of being loyal to your tenants, are New Hampshire people being loyal to New Hampshire people? So we know that basically there was a massive influx from New York and a lot of the southern states, and a lot of people coming from like Boston Metro and New York Metro coming up to New Hampshire for vacation homes, buying up the properties. Have you seen maybe a trend where people are looking to sell properties to people that have always lived here and are, selling down the street, and you want to sell your house to someone who just recently lived in the same town or in the same area? Are you seeing a loyalty towards that, or are they just going to the highest bidder?
Me?
Yep.
Well, it's an interesting point. And in this day and age, like when you talk about picking somebody based on a certain criteria, whether they've been here for a while or things like that, it brings up fair housing issues and those sorts of things. So we're actually going away from allowing even letters to come to the sellers, because one, they may not be prejudiced themselves, but they could open themselves up to risk if they happen to choose somebody for a certain reason, but it could be perceived that it was a different reason. So the love letter from buyer agents is a risky thing for sellers to put kind of everybody's picture on a table and say, all right, I want to get these.
That's illegal. I mean, you go to
What?
jail. That's illegal. You can't, just.
Well, I mean, you could say, like, I've had people use me because I went to UNH, like, so, or pick somebody because of their college, or Marines. Like, I've had people say, hey, I'm a Marine. I notice you're a Marine, so, but there's all kinds of different other things that people can go in the wrong direction with those types of decisions too. So, and I think more to your point was, yeah, I think there's always, I grew up in Wolfboro. I've got 9 generations in this area. So, like, I'm as local as you pretty much can get. And there's always been the feeling that people are coming up and squeezing the local personnel. I think the thing that's what Eric talked about earlier, the cost of development is what's squeezing people out. Like, if somebody can take a piece of land and put more houses on it that people can afford, that keeps the local person here. But if the government says you can't build anymore, the existing house supply and demand, that drives the prices up. So I think that there could be more loyalty to the local people by allowing us to sell more product.
On the development side, Eric, especially like in your development world, is there a little bit more favoritism or ease or cheaper state in New England? So if, let's say I want to develop, is it actually more beneficial for me to buy land and develop a property in Maine or Massachusetts? Like, is in the area, is New Hampshire, just specifically because it's a little bit further outside the metro areas, a little bit more expensive to develop, or it basically doesn't matter where you are these days?
I think it really depends on whether you're doing an adaptive reuse development or a greenfield development. If you're putting a new subdivision in the woods near somebody else's subdivision, it's going to be difficult pretty much in any state. I think New Hampshire has instituted some good appeals processes lately that allows conflicts to get resolved a little quicker. I think that's a great move for affordability. But on the adaptive, and I think so much is a result of local planning boards and local code enforcement, town to town versus state to state. Certain municipalities can be just extremely difficult to work with. And it's just the way that they enforce the codes in their town versus others. We look now for towns that are quote unquote open for business, that we'll actually go talk to the planning department, to the fire chief, the code enforcement, and just say, hey, are you guys kind of supporting development, or are you just not? And we've been fortunate to kind of choose the communities that we work in, and almost like an interview process. So
kind of along the lines of those, like looking for these opportunities and saving money on developments or reconstruction, like Anna and Eric and Todd especially, do either of you guys see energy efficiency items kind of coming into play here, where it might be some cost savings if you put solar panels on one of your new buildings? Is it more feasible to do that development project because you might get some tax benefits? Are you looking to develop specifically with certain energy efficiency items? Kind of what are you seeing in the trends in that area?
I mean, I think that that's going to be it's already important, and it's going to continue to get more important. I think, net zero homes, net zero buildings, when we do new HVAC systems, we do the highest efficiency that we can get. And here in southern New Hampshire, most of our electricity is generated by nuclear power, so it's clean, carbon-free energy, electricity. So we have been seeing a lot more electric heating and cooling, and I think going forward, structural panels, SIPs, structurally insulated panels, are going to continue to be more important. In residential homes, they'll continue to be more important in commercial buildings as well. So solar and also is a big one. Wind, it's just that, we have a difficult time here, and in lots of other places that abutters don't like change. And if you try to put up a windmill, get ready for some opposition is what I would expect.
One thing that we've done for several years now is on our single family new home developments, we're an Energy Star builder, and we experimented early on with kind of the lowest hanging fruit. So our average home size is maybe 18 or 1900 square feet now. And we put in a package that might add $5,000 to $7,000 to the cost of the house, but has a real impact on energy efficiency. We have options for people like solar panels and other things that they can do that aren't as efficient in that they cost a lot without as much increase in efficiency. So we think the market is really ready for an incremental type of cost that adds a real benefit on energy efficiency, but we're not seeing. We've tried to do a net zero home, Todd, and that same $5,000 to $7,000 to really knock the energy cost down would be $30,000 for net zero to gain that little increment. There's not too many buyers in our marketplace that want to make that extra investment.
How about so are you seeing in that $5,000 range, it's low E windows, it's heat pumps, it's insulation?
It's spray, the closed cell, the spray foam insulation, those things that really have a major impact on energy costs. I think like 50 to 60% reduction, and don't add a ton of cost.
Right.
And are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, so I'm trying to think about whether or not to start with residential or commercial, but I guess I'll just say this. A lot of my buildings were built in the 80s. So as Todd, Eric, Adam, all of you guys can attest, older technology is not as energy efficient. Nowadays, not just developers or investors are looking to, or even appliance manufacturers are trying to make things on the same scale that they did back in the 1980s. Most things that if your heat pump explodes and you need to replace it in a space, or your cooling tower or your boiler, the new one that you're replacing it with is 10 out of 10 times probably more energy efficient than the previous one that you had in there from the 80s, 90s, whenever it was. So from a residential standpoint, since it's the winter and the cold winter months, I've had a lot of our apartments have electric baseboard heat. So I'll be getting emails from tenants saying, hey, why is my electricity bill $800 for a 1-bedroom apartment? And all I have to say is I'm really sorry. It is actually technically normal for the building, but it's just, I'm sorry. We're not going to rip out the whole HVAC system and replace it with central air and stuff. We just can't. It's a huge cost. And from a commercial standpoint, like I said, if something breaks, you fix it. We've recently replaced all of the boilers at 2 of my buildings, and our electricity bill has basically been cut in half. It was amazing to see. Another thing that we're also seeing, especially in the city, is Leeds certified buildings, and ultimately meaning that LEED comes in and takes all of your electricity bills, everything that your building's made of, all of that, and they grade you. They give you X amount of points for X amount of things that you have or do not have. And if you're LEED Gold, that means that you are super energy efficient. You are a team player. That's awesome. Investors like to see it, I guess, especially now with the uprise of interest in it. And as do some tenants, say, Twitter, the Twitters, the Facebooks, the biotech companies of the world, they want to see, oh, well, the building that I'm going to become a tenant of is energy efficient. They're striving for greatness. I want to be a part of this building. There is a cost that's associated with, operating costs that comes along with being LEED Gold. You have a lot of criteria to keep up to, but it is really popular.
Okay, so guys, we are getting really close to 8 o'clock. So I do have a couple more questions and I want to kind of fire them off. One of them specifically with hotels. So looking at kind of those empty, vacant retail old store places becoming rental units. Do any of you guys see old hotels that are currently vacant turning into rental units over the next few years, or do you think that not going to happen?
I mean, I think that everyone will wait to see if the hotel business comes back before they make that conversion. But we are seeing, I've been seeing smaller units. So smaller efficiency units have become more popular. There's a couple of them that are built, right near my office that are down in the 300 and 400 square feet efficiency. Do you have any of those, Eric? Do you have some smaller units?
Yeah, our studio apartment trends are coming down to like average of 450 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, they call them what, micro apartments?
Yeah.
People like them.
They do, because especially if they're traveling or it's a second location. One of the other questions that we have, which I'm very familiar with, as my retiring parents are hopping the border, are you seeing a lot of retirees from Massachusetts hop the border? Up in our area, I personally am, mainly because yes, they're getting away from the income tax of Massachusetts, although New Hampshire has higher property tax. Many that I see personally are looking at it from an estate tax. So New Hampshire is very favorable when you die compared to Massachusetts. So what are you guys seeing in that market? Are you seeing them kind of retire and hop the border?
I certainly seeing a lot of retirees coming up here. I think Florida still beats us if you look at it as a whole from a tax standpoint. But what's good about New Hampshire is the no income tax. And then if you can pick the right town, there are towns that have, like I just listed a place in Hales location up in North Conway. It's right on a golf course, 2 houses together. It's a $2 million house, but the taxes are $4,000. So if you're a retiree that likes to play golf, Hales location doesn't have anything but Hales location. So there's these pockets of things in vacation land that have lower taxes. So the property tax aren't really a factor when making those decisions. But I think the dividends tax is something that people have to look at too. So if you get a lot of dividend income, that New Hampshire does tax that. But a lot of retirees, yes, are coming.
We're seeing it as well in our apartments in Mills, in the larger 2-bedroom apartments. We see some reverse snowbirding going on, where in the summertime, retirees are coming up because they have children or grandchildren in the New Hampshire area. So, but they don't want to own a home, and we've got a bunch of them. I would say a third of our demographic in our urban mill apartments are retirees.
Well, it is past 8 o'clock, so I'm going to wrap it up. I do know that there are still some questions in our queue box. We have recorded those, and we will absolutely get back to you with the answers for those questions. So I want to say thank you so much to our panelists. You are all awesome and are fantastically experts in your areas. So thank you guys all for attending tonight. And if you have additional questions, please feel free to reach out. We will get back to those of you that have open questions in the box. And if you have any follow-up questions, please let us know. And also feel free to reach out to me again with our students. I'm going to plug them as many times as possible. Internships, jobs, just answering questions, make them do feasibility studies. I'll make it their homework. But thank you very much for attending tonight's session. And thank you to all our guests. We hope you have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.